Self-love. This is a tough one, because love itself is hard enough to define. There is a band called Foreigner, who had a hit single in the 80s called I Want to Know What Love Is, and they're still singing it today. Because nobody showed them. And because it's a cracking song. So what is it? Self-love is treating, acting, and talking to yourself in a way that cultivates all aspects of your being, so that you may grow to your full potential. Pretty obvious, right? Surely we all do it, and know what's good for us. In fact, I hope that so far, this has been the most boring talk you've ever heard, and you're wondering why you wasted your time listening. Because you're already practicing self-love, and now you're going to demand a full refund and put that money towards a new set of ears that have the ability to tune out my voice. But of course, we wouldn't be having this talk if it were that easy. I mean, I don't plan on doing a talk on how to put on Velcro shoes. And if I need to do one, then I have really failed as a father. For some reason, many of us don't treat ourselves as we should. There are people who give up on themselves. There are people who actually don't believe that they deserve love, or anything good at all, and therefore allow themselves to be treated worse than dirt. Unfortunately, all of us can fall into this trap. You see, sometimes self-love doesn't come naturally. In fact, it's the original bait and switch. Contrary to the name, self-love is so dependent on others, especially parents, but all of society, family, friends, media, culture, and bullies, have an impact on us and how we see ourselves. Quite often, we learn our worth from what we are told as children. Everything we hear is recorded into our subconscious minds, and that recording becomes your default thinking, identity, and worldview. If you're told you're smart and talented, you'll see yourself as a smart talent. If you're told you're a hopeless loser, then it's possible that you'll identify with that. As Carl Jung said, you are your subconscious. When the recording isn't a happy soundtrack, or when there's one crap song that stands out, it can result in an awful loop playing in one's head. This deep-seated, chronic negativity can turn into shame. A lot of us feel shame. We feel that there is something fundamentally wrong with us, that we're ruined, damaged goods, irredeemable, disqualified from the game of life, and that things can never change for us. There are whole belief systems that control people through shame and unworthiness. It's important to separate shame from guilt. Guilt is this normal thing that we go through when we feel that we are responsible for some wrongdoing. You see, when things are as we feel they should be, we feel neutral. When things are better than usual, our bodies release all sorts of endorphins and hormones, and that makes us feel good. In other words, there is a natural reward. Conversely, when we do something that we think is bad, cortisol is released, our breath shortens, our stomach sinks, along with a whole bunch of other physical reactions. These are involuntary, 100% normal, and totally okay. The bigger the wrong, the more momentum the physical sensations have, and the harder it is to stop them. But usually after a proportional amount of time, and some corrective actions, the feelings run out of steam, and our bodies return to neutral. For example, you break something, you apologise, you pay for it, and we all move on. If it's something much bigger, like running over the neighbour's cat, then the road back is longer, and the more corrective energy is needed to put things as right as possible. With shame, our neutral position is already skewed towards the bad end of the feeling spectrum. Fighting a demon is hard enough. Doing it while knee-deep in lava is near impossible. To practice self-love, we need to manage shame. Shame comes down to how we see ourselves, that is, our identity and worldview. So let's get these in working order. Think about what is actually real. Other than maths, physics, and things that can be measured with objective instruments, what is reality? Heck, some measurements are affected by the act of measuring itself. Now, as you know, I've always done my best not to tell you who you are or how to see the world, so I'm going to do my best to be fact-based and completely unbiased. Starting at the beginning, you were born. Think about all the countless collisions between particles, elements going through nuclear fusion resulting in other elements, and the evolutionary processes of every living organism. Of all the things made and unmade over billions of years, you exist in this present time. You have made it. Isn't that remarkable? Winning Powerball is pretty impressive, but that's nothing compared to being born, and with human consciousness. Your existence is the very definition of good enough. This is often skewed because our worldview tells us that life should work a certain way, according to certain rules. This desire for order can lead to shame, because we all have jagged edges that don't exactly fit into the world. This could be due to a past action, family history, or financial situation, for example. But life doesn't see itself that way. All life cares about is, well, life. That means photosynthesis, metabolic processes, reproduction, energy transforming from one form to another. Constant change. That is what life is about. That's all that was ever promised when the universe came into being through, you guessed it, an act of change. Plants will grow through cracks in the concrete. They don't even know that the concrete is there, because all they can see is the light. Life doesn't care about its upbringing or pedigree or what brand names it can afford. And life is so focused on life that it will adapt and completely change form just to keep growing. It will sprout legs and leave the ocean if it has a chance. There's no set path, no fixed shape, no set outcome. Just energy flowing from this to that. Now let me ask you this. How can someone be broken if there is no form? How can someone be stuck in the one place if everything in the universe is constantly moving? How can an old label stick to a beam of light? Therefore, there can't be anything fundamentally wrong with anyone. We have life, and we are who we are, and if you ever feel shameful either due to your own worldview or someone else trying to shame you, just stick to the facts. You don't have to see life like that, but that is how life sees you. A bit of space-time, a tiny part of the universe, was roped off just for you, and you can control that energy with your thoughts alone. No one else can do that. Pretty amazing, huh? So what are you going to do with it? From our Meaning of Life talk, we know that your job is to cultivate that energy, and by now it should be clear that you are the only one that can do that. You are its gardener. Now, no gardener would ever ask if he or she is worthy of tools, whether he or she deserves them, or is good enough to handle a watering can. They just use what they need to get that garden bursting with life. For you to properly tend your patch of the universe, you need to do the same. It is your sole responsibility. That's not my opinion. That's pure physics. Pure fact. You are here to cultivate that garden, and nature granted you full, top-level security clearance to access anything you need the moment you were born. And what is the multi-pronged tool that does it all? That's right, self-love. I hope that by this point you accept that you are deserving of love and allow yourself to access integrity, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, humour, humility, and self-belief. Alright, to summarise, let's use our garden analogy to see how you can practice self-love. 1. Unconditional positive regard. If you were a landscaper starting out with a patch of dirt, you would push your imagination to its fullest and visualise the most beautiful, colourful, fertile land of which that piece of earth is capable. You wouldn't look at it and think, that's all there is and will ever be. In other words, you wouldn't identify with it. You would be realistic and know what you're dealing with, but you would be looking at the plans, the bigger picture, the artist's impression of your dream garden, and you would move dirt and smash rocks and plant the best plants you could get your green thumbs on until your vision became a reality. This is the mindset you need. Identify with yourself honestly. See yourself in the best possible light and do the work with self-love. If your subconscious mind is preventing you from seeing your true self, then you will have more work to do. Some practical ways of doing this are talking to a mental health professional, meditation, writing down your goals, having mantras that automatically play in your head when you need to hear them, visualizations, and having good people around you. 2. Self-knowledge. I know, I go on about this all the time. Every garden is unique. You need to understand the terrain, the soil type, the climate, and surrounding ecosystem to make the most of it. Frangipanis, beautiful as they are, aren't going to work in a cold climate. There's no point planting something that isn't going to work in the wrong environment and then getting frustrated over it. So work with your nature, and don't try to be something you're not. That's not to say don't challenge yourself. But as Einstein said, at least I think it was him, you don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. 3. Be gentle. You wouldn't trash and trample a garden and expect it to grow. Same goes for you. Try to speak to yourself as kindly as possible, and treat yourself as you treat anyone that you love. 4. Constant maintenance. Just as you need to prune bushes, remove weeds, and eliminate pests for a garden to flourish, you will need a self-care routine for yourself. Look for ways to strengthen your mind, be it meditation or some other practice that works best for you. Take care of your physical health, and know you are in charge of how you spend your time. Would you let someone else write appointments in your diary or make journal entries? Then don't just let anyone into your life, nor let time get away from you. 5. Review your vision. Keep up with the seasons. Move things around, giving things more sun or shade as necessary, and look at better ways of doing things for the best yield as more facts come to light. I hope you always practice self-love, no matter what happens in life. You will experience guilt and shame, and that is when you will need self-love most. I feel terrible for bullying when I was younger and being a bad friend. I've learned that all we can do is make the best corrective actions possible and be humble and accept that we are all human. And if you see anyone else having a tough time, offer them forgiveness, compassion, empathy, and kindness. Mummy says that no one escapes childhood without some scars. But as she also says, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. With self-love, you can heal any wound and record the tape that you want. I hope that we haven't left any unwanted lyrics in your heads. In case we have, I want you to know that we're never going to give you up, we're never going to let you down, and we're never going to run around and desert you. Never going to make you cry, never going to say goodbye, never going to tell a lie and hurt you. Never going to give you up. See you next time. Like and subscribe, and remember, you can be a plural.